Right, so I'm back for yet another Outriders video, and I guess I'm probably going to just do a full week of Outriders here, because it's launch week, and Destiny's not doing anything, so here we are. There's always something to talk about with Outriders for now, and this will probably continue on for the indefinite future. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some of the negatives I've seen and things I think that the game needs to add. There's not much, I think it does a great job at a lot of things, and I think there's a reason it's making such a great impression on most people. But as much as it gets like a lot right at launch, it is missing some kind of really basic things that I haven't loved so far, and things that I hope that it adds pretty soon into the future here, and that are kind of staples of most other looters, or things that they've realized that the genre kind of needs. There's 5 in total I want to go through today. There's probably more, but I'll start with these. First is the ability to lock an item. Right now, you cannot do that. You can mass dismantle all of a certain rarity of item, which is very useful and something Lord knows Destiny could use. I would love a dismantle all blues option, or an ability to not pick up blues, which Outriders also has. But if you're saving like an epic or something and you want to disable all your other epics that you know are garbage, there's no way to lock that piece of gear, and there's no way to lock legendary drops. If for some reason your toddler wanders into the room and dismantles your favorite legendary, like there's no way to do that, and I guarantee you that will happen to somebody. So something as simple as a thumbstick click lock feature, that is all you really need. I have to imagine that it's something that is not that hard to implement, and I'm frankly a little surprised with all the kind of care they put into inventory management in other ways that there's no way to do this. You can sort by all these different levels, you can do stuff with the rarity and mass dismantle, but you cannot lock items, which seems very weird. One thing it is kind of explicitly clear that the game will need at some point is the ability to save loadouts. This game kind of echoes The Division in that you have full gear sets for different types of builds. Certain gear sets, especially the legendary ones at the end, will dramatically affect your playstyle and its focus on certain skills. So it stands to reason, instead of just remembering, which gear is which and which set does what, if there was an ability to save all your gear and all the mods you have inside that gear and your skill tree to join it, that would be great, because I would love to be able to, say, switch between, a totally freeze Technomancer build and a totally toxic Technomancer build, rather than every time I want to change, redoing the whole skill tree, manually flipping all of my gear one by one, or manually changing out all the mods. It's not really about mod cost. Like, I don't mind that. It's just, it would be so much easier if there was a loadout mechanic in the game, especially a game with set gear. I think you really need a loadout, because it's so clearly designed for different sets that it is kind of strange not to have that. Third, I think, surprise, Transmog. I think very much Outriders needs Transmog. I am a big fan of this in every game. Destiny is finally getting it next season. I was not a fan of the Outriders aesthetic at first, but the more you go and when you start getting kind of later endgame gear, there are some pretty cool epics. There's like skull masks, there's chest plates made out of bones of aliens and things like that. Like there's a whole lot of cool looks that you can kind of assemble, and then obviously the individual set pieces kind of have their own defined look, and I would be okay if those were excluded from Transmog, just like you won't be able to transmog exotics in Destiny, but I think at least normal kind of epics should be allowed to kind of overwrite whatever you're wearing, just so you can have matching sets. And again, that's probably something a little harder to implement if they haven't built it from the start, but given that I know that there is a lot of cool looking gear out there, especially as you get toward the end of the game, I would really like there to be Transmog. Moving away from kind of character setup and inventory stuff, I really think that they need to, one of the primary fixes they need to make right now is to fix the broken waypointing system. Depending on how far you are into the game, you may not notice this, but at least I'd say about 2/3, or I would say a third or halfway through the story, the waypoint system starts getting really messed up and constantly takes you to dead ends, or like does not show you the correct way to go, and in fact shows you the direct opposite way to go. And like I have had situations where, say, like, okay, you go to a zone and you pick up a monster hunt. the actual location for the monster hunt is like 30 feet away in one of those like blue glowing doorways you have to go through to load into the scenes. But the indicator is telling you to go like halfway around the world and will dead end you somewhere that like you're not supposed to go at all. And the longer the game goes on, the worse this problem gets. And when the waypoint system works, it's actually very good. It's one of the better waypointing systems I've probably seen in a game because of, you know, the line appearing exactly on screen and taking you exactly where you need to go. Problem becomes when it does not take you where you need to go and takes you a very, very long way only to realize you're going to a dead end. It got to the point where like in the late game, I knew I could just never ever trust the thing. So I would have to manually look on the map. That's another issue. The map is very not detailed. It does not show you where you are. It does not show you which direction you're facing. None of that. So when the waypoint system does not work, it is a huge pain to try and find some of these quest start locations. And it did get to the point where like I was in a zone in one of the final areas where every single time I triggered the waypoint thing, it would take me to the wrong place in 100% of the quests on the map. So that something is clearly bugged out with that, and it is progressively worse as time goes on. It works pretty well at the beginning, but by the end of the game, it is like actively deceptive. So they really need to fix that. My final thing for now is like something that's kind of tied a little bit to launch, but it's also a bit structurally this is a problem, and that would be the randomized matchmaking system, especially for expeditions. At the very end, without going into spoilers, like you will get kind of a separate camp that is sort of just the Outriders generic base, where you will kind of load into if you've beaten the campaign and launch expeditions from there. The problem is when you're matchmaking randomly with a team, like I'm getting real vibes of the Borderlands matchmaking system for each match made activities, whatever those are called, like Proving Grounds and the raid-like ones they were doing for a while, where it does not load you with the correct number of players. It may not load you with the correct difficulty, and it just won't find a game straight up. I'm willing to overlook the ability to not find a game right now because, okay, it's still early. Some people just may not be at whatever challenge tier, but the whole system is kind of messed up to me because I wish it would just load. I wish this was like a playlist. I wish it would load you like straight into, if you pick randomized matchmaking, I wish it would just pick an expedition and immediately load 3 people into it and you can start running it. Instead, what it does is it puts you in this base, and I would say 90% of the time where I have found a game, it has just been me and one other person. And given that this is a time trial based thing where you need to clear this as fast as possible, running these with 2 people is at a distinct disadvantage of running it with 3 people because you will kill things slower and you will not have as many people around to survive and revive you. So running that has been poor. I'd say sometimes they add in a third person, like maybe halfway, 2/3 of the way through the mission. Sometimes they never do. And then sometimes you'll load in and someone will just be standing there fiddling around with their mods at the mod guy for 20 minutes and you can't do anything because you're not party leader, and only the party leader can start actually trying to find a expedition to run. So it's just like I equate it to Destiny. Like instead of a strike playlist in Destiny, it's like if they sent you to the tower, only gave you one other person instead of 2 people, and you had to manually go over to Zavala and manually go pick a strike, and then you would run the strike. And after that strike, then you go back to the tower again and do the whole thing over again. People would be at their vaults. Like there needs to be like a consistent kind of rotation, and there was so much downtime. Like it's already taking forever to find a game that doesn't like kick you out or won't match at all. But the system that's set up here is just, it's not great for randomized. And like I get if you're with friends and you're in a party and you can actively communicate why it's okay to have downtime in between, like you want to mod the gear you just got, you want to do this or that, but for randomized it makes these things drag. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to even start a thing, and when it does start, you may not even have a third person there. I don't know how much of this will be solved in time. It's possible that the system as it exists right now will work better once there are more people, and if it can instantly match me in a group of 3 and throw me in that camp and people aren't standing around doing nothing forever, it'll be better. But fundamentally, it just seems like a very weird system, and I would just rather have a mode that just threw me directly into an expedition that I could succeed at or fail at or whatever, but without all this downtime in between, and with the proper number of players. Like, I don't even think it should be launching with 2 people unless you were like in a active friend group with just another person, or you choose to do it solo. Like, this Borderlands did this all the time, where they, at first when they had these things, they were scaled for 4 players, and yet it would only give you 1 or 2 other teammates, and as such it would be ridiculously hard because you were undermanned for it. And I don't know how scaling works in Outriders. Like, I have 2-mans, plenty of expeditions, but it is more fun and more smooth with 3 people every time, and that has been, between that and the connection issues, that has been a real hampering of my endgame experience, so much so that I've almost abandoned trying to do endgame entirely until my actual friends are at that level and they can do it with me. So I've just been running my Pyromancer on PC and my Technomancer ult on Xbox. So that's kind of bothered me a lot. And that's one thing that could be solved in time, but I think they might need a system to give us less downtime in between things and to make it easier to find games in the first place. So that last one was longer than the other ones combined probably, but that's, to me, is one of the most pressing issues right now, because endgame is borderline impossible to to kind of run right now unless you have an active group of friends at your level that are willing to do it, because the randomized system is not good. But it's a great game overall. I'm really enjoying it. I just think some of these are kind of like no-brainer things that you need for any looter, like locking gear. I mean, come on, that's 101 there. But the other stuff may be a little harder to fix, and some of it's buggy, some of it's player population stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But those are my 5 things. If you have other things, please add them in the comments. And yeah. And is Evie here? Yeah, she's here. Evie, say hi. Okay. She says hi. But all right. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.